We continue to celebrate our Black history makers today with Angela Meredith-Springer.
My name is Angela Meredith-Springer. In 2002, I was hired as the first Black female police officer in the city of Jonesboro. I didn't go to college after high school. I looked at the local retail stores and I applied for the job that paid the most. It was a loss prevention officer job. I had no idea what loss prevention did. This is where I met most of the police officers that I knew at the Jonesboro Police Department. In the meantime, I enrolled in college and I worked this job the entire time that I was in college. I got a bachelor's degree in social work and a minor in criminology. One of the police officers prior to me graduating brought me an application. I didn't want that application. I never wanted to be a police officer. He said, keep it and pray about it. And I did, and on the deadline to turn in the application, I filled it out, I turned it in, and I was hired. I was a Jonesboro police officer. Next comes academy. I walk into academy class, 49 other people, nobody looked like me. Of course, I didn't have the fabulous afro at the time, but still, nobody looked like me. I didn't realize that I was the first Black female officer. There were other Black male officers on the force. Well, actually there were two that I had met, but I didn't realize I was the first Black female until I went to academy class. And then I asked some of the officers, has there ever been another Black female on the police department? And they said, no, you're the first. And it was a bit intimidating at first because I thought, okay, I have to prove myself. I have to show them that I'm worthy of having this position. Police Academy was 12 weeks long. It was a very competitive environment. There were 5 other women in the class, but no other Black people in the class. I graduated number 1 from my academy class. That was the first time in history anybody from Jonesboro ever graduated first from academy class. I leave academy class and I go on patrol. I felt like I needed to work harder than everybody else on patrol. My reports were top notch. They used my reports to show other officers how to correctly write their reports, especially their DWI reports. I did undercover assignments. I did whatever it took, and I excelled at patrol. And everything was fine up until January 2005 when a position came open in CID. I finally submitted my essay and my application along with, I believe it was 3 other officers. One of them was a senior officer, a white male that had been on patrol a long time. He had a reputation of doing the bare minimum. I was told that he was asking around to find out who else had applied for the position, and he felt confident that position was going to be his until he found out that I had applied for the position. We worked different shifts. Our paths never crossed. January the 2nd, 2005, yes, I remember the date. I was going on my shift, he was getting off. He just happened to be standing on the parking lot. Hey Meredith, heard you applied for the position. Yes, I did. I didn't know he had applied at the time. He advised that he had applied along with a few other people. And at the end of the conversation, he said, well, the only reason I probably won't get this position is because they've never had a black female in CID. So you probably have an up on me because of this. Now at that moment, that's when God took over, because there were a whole lot of thoughts that came to my mind that I wanted to say, but I didn't. I just turned and I walked away. And I got the call and said, you've been granted the spot in CID based on your accomplishments, your work, your dedication, your commitment to the department. You've been granted this position. They still didn't know anything about the conversation that I'd had with the other officer at that time. It was after that that I submitted my complaint to my lieutenant, who in turn submitted to the captain, and internal affairs investigation was started. Of course, his story differed greatly from my version of the conversation. So we were both required to take a polygraph test. My polygraph test showed that I was non-deceptive in the answering of my questions. Of course, his test was inconclusive. They couldn't prove that he was deceptive, but they couldn't prove that he wasn't. So, giving the results of the polygraph, the only thing that they could do was to require him to take a human relations class outside of the department that would help him to better address diversity issues. That was all that they can do at that time. It's been 12 years, and I was told recently that he's still on patrol. He's applied to other positions before, and I'm not there to block him, so he thought, but he's still never been promoted outside of the patrol division. I didn't really have many issues with the officers that I worked with. Many of the issues came when I responded to calls, and it would be issues within the black community. I was a sellout, I was this, I was that, because I was a patrol officer. Well, the only reason that I would be making contact with you would be a violation of the law. I mean, that was pretty much the only contact that we would have. Even though I was a patrol officer and a detective, in the back of my mind I was still a social work. So I was the officer that had little crosses in my pocket. When I arrest you, if you're not going out to the county jail where they're going to strip it from you, I give you this little wooden cross. And I would ask people to just pray about their actions. There were highlights in the department where I would see people out in public, out of uniform, and they would recognize me. Detective Meredith, guess what? I'm not stealing anymore. Nothing that I'm wearing is stolen. Guess what? I have a job. I listen to you. So being on patrol is not just always negative and arresting people and negative contact. There were truly blessings that came out of it. Blessings for me and blessings for others. But the realization that I was the first black female in 2002 just kind of blew my mind.
Celebrating our history makers. Celebrating our first.